Hey everybody, this is Tim Long. Happy Friday. One half of Horror Movie Yearbook. Welcome to your horror hotline for July 20th, 2018. Yes, it's Friday. Getting ready for the weekend. Hey, next week we are going to be back with our new episode. We're covering Fear, the Mark Wahlberg 1996 movie Fear. I'm very excited. I'm going to watch it this weekend. Very excited about it. I remember it being quite interesting. So if you want to leave us feedback for the show, for anything in general, just drop us a line at horrormovieyearbook at gmail.com. That's horrormovieyearbook@gmail.com. Or you can get at us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on all of those things. Make sure to stop on over and check out our Patreon page for the Midwest Podnet. We've got a ton of shows on the podcast network. We got the Game Nerds. We got Gone to Texas, the Preacher recap. But it's patreon.com/MidwestPodnet. You can donate to us for as little as $1 a month. And just checking it out is much appreciated. So hop on over there, check it out. We are going to jump right into it today. I'm going to start today with a review of the new Kane Hodder documentary, To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story. Kane Hodder, of course, played Jason in Friday the 13th, part 7, 8, 9, and X. He is kind of synonymous with the character of Jason. He is the only one to have played him multiple times. Has also been in movies like Hatchet. You've seen him in movies like Hatchet, the BTK Killer. He has a small role in the Charlize Theron movie Monster, which is talked about maybe a little too long in the documentary, but this new documentary just came out from Dread Central Presents. A few months ago, ESPN ran one of their 30 for 30 documentaries on professional wrestler Ric Flair. The documentary was an in-depth look at how Flair, at his personal life, his relationship with his family, as well as his career. The documentary was unflinching and at times brutal. Look at the dark side of Flair's kind of showman lifestyle, his hard partying, jet setting lifestyle. My fiance, who sat down and is not necessarily a wrestling fan, sat next to me the entire time and was transfixed with Flair's story. And that kind of proved that it just kind of proved the idea that you don't really need to be a fan of something to appreciate the story of the human being at its center. We both came out of the documentary feeling as if we knew the man Ric Flair better than we did going in, flaws and all. To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story never quite reaches that same level, but it does have its moments. To Hell and Back, it's kind of a talking head style documentary, and like I said, it's from Dread Central Presents. I think it's their second release under that banner. Directed by Derek Dennis Herbert and inspired by Michael Aliosi's autobiography Unmasked, the true life story of the world's most prolific cinematic killer. That's a biography, excuse me. But that's the biography on Kane Hodder. The film features interviews with Aliosi himself, as well as horror luminaries Robert Englund, Cassandra Peterson, Elvira, Bruce Campbell, and the man himself, Kane Hodder, as they chronologically walk the viewer through Hodder's life and career. This documentary focus is a lot on Hodder's career, maybe a little bit too much, to be honest. To Hell and Back takes you from the beginning of his career as a stuntman and all the way up to his current day and his most recent role in the maybe will be released. They've been saying it's going to be released soon. It's kind of an Expendables of horror type movie called Death House. Thankfully, Herbert doesn't dive too deep into his Friday the 13th work. And the reason I say thankfully is because if you are a Hodder fan, I'm guessing you have heard all of these stories ad nauseum, because there are so many different. There's the Crystal Lake Memories book, Crystal Lake Memories movie. There's the various different documentaries based around the separate movies themselves, the box set documentaries. There are plenty of places where you can hear Kane Hodder talk about being Jason. It was kind of nice to see him talk about stuff like Hatchet, and it's nice because the stuff like Hatchet feels like new ground that is being covered. There is a negative side to that, though. On the flip side of the coin, there are stuff like the BTK Killer gets quite a bit of time being spent on it. Oh gosh, the one is slipping my memory. But like stuff like the BTK killer is treated with a bit more reverence than perhaps it should. It's kind of unfortunate that to hell and back is his career focus as it is, because the moments revolving around Kane Hodder as a person and what he's been through are the film's most captivating. Hodder is a genuine, engaging personality, and those qualities shine through when he's on screen being interviewed. The segments where the film are at its most engaging and the most terrifying are the ones spent covering his accidental burning at the beginning of his career. The story, when you hear Hodder tell it in the documentary, I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything. I'm going to tell the story real quick just so people kind of have a basic idea of what the documentary focuses on for a good chunk of it. But hearing Hodder tell the story is probably worth the price of admission alone, because it's heartbreaking. Here's the story. A news station came to Hodder with the idea for a story about a local kid who was Hodder, making it in the movie business as a stunt coordinator. Kane was happy to take part in the story and even offered to stage like a live stunt for them to demonstrate the types of things that he would be doing. The stunt was Kane was going to set himself on fire. He performed the stunt once. He wasn't happy with the way it looked, so he decided he'd come back and do it again. The issue is he had ran out of rubber cement, so he sent the reporter. Well, the reporter offered to grab some rubber cement from her desk, from her work area. Unbeknownst to the reporter and Hodder, the rubber cement she grabbed was extremely flammable, and Hodder was immediately engulfed in flames. That portion of the story is terrifying as it is. I mean, he was set on fire, and they had to rush him. Well, actually, they rushed him to a couple places before they took him to a hospital. Hodder was eventually taken to that hospital, and he would endure what he called months of torture. The hospital was ill-equipped, both in equipment and in staff. For example, when the doctor went to give Hodder pain pills for the burns, Hodder's father convinced the doctor not to, as he didn't want his son to become addicted to the pain pills like some of his friends in the army had. The doctor listened to Kane's father, and resulting in excruciating pain for Hodder as they scraped his skin with like scalpels. They attempted numerous skin graft surgeries that didn't take. He developed bed sores. They moved him from room to room during his stay at the hospital. And eventually Kane Hodder developed staph infection. That's when the hospital finally decided to move him to a specialty burn unit in San Francisco, something that honestly should have been done months prior, considering the extent of Hodder's burn. The story is horrific, and watching Kane Hodder break down while he tells it is not an easy thing to watch. This is, I believe, the first time he's really told the story on camera. It was covered in Unmasked, but he really struggles to get through it. Hodder is a proud man, and it's something that's evident in the way he talks about his numerous different roles. I mean, even the smallest of roles. I mean, he's proud of his work in even a bit part in something like Monster. He's proud of everything. He's proud of the Hatchet series. He takes all of his work seriously, and that's kind of cool to see. And he was really that first actor to take pride and own being Jason. And he's really, I mean, he's still the only one to do so over multiple movies. He claims that he's never talked about the story for fear of embarrassment, and he admits to having suicidal thoughts during the entire ordeal. The story is incredibly human, it's heartbreaking, and it's what leads to the most honest and illuminating moments into Hell and Back. After that, they jump back into kind of a chronological retelling of Hodder's career, and I think that's where I was most engaged during that middle portion, and when it jumps back into that chronological retelling, it kind of feels because what it does is it chronologically tells the beginning of his story, his life. It gets to Jason, then jumps back to the burning story, and then jumps back into. It feels very awkward. And honestly, I don't know if the chronological telling of the story is maybe the way. If it's to Hell and Back, I think it should have been bookended around that story, and then he performs a burning stunt in Friday the 13th Part 7. But then they jump back into Part 7, and then they go into stuff like the Hatchet movies and the BTK killer, and that stuff kind of feels like maybe it should have been an epilogue where it takes up quite a bit of time in the documentary. As a quick aside, Hodder not getting the part of Jason in Freddy vs. Jason is covered into Hell and Back. The loss of the role to Ken Kirzinger is treated as a big setback for him in the movie, and it is. I've always kind of thought he was a bit sensitive about it, but I came to understand his disappointment a little better in this movie. He explains that he feels that Kirzinger's agent misrepresented his client to the studio by telling them that Kirzinger had already played Jason in a past movie, when in fact he had really only played Jason as a stand-in for one scene for Hodder in Jason Takes Manhattan. Either way, though, it seems that Hodder has finally found some peace with that time period in his life, which is nice to see, because he in the past has come off a bit bitter about it, and it was kind of a bummer, but he seems to at least made peace with that, and that was nice. That's probably the most important takeaway I had from To Hell and Back. Hodder seems like a man who is proud of the career that he's had so far, and he most importantly seems to be at peace with his personal life. He seems to have comes to grips with stuff like missing out on Jason and Freddy vs. Jason, and he seems to have come full circle from that horrific burn early in his career. It's not perfect. I don't know how accessible it is to those without a familiarity with Kane Hodder going in, but for fans, it's a nice overview of his life and career. I just wish it focused more on the life and a little bit less on his career. But yeah, good doc. That's my review. Let's move on to what we got. Let's give a weekend preview. Of course, it's mainly just Mamma Mia and The Equalizer 2, folks. So take your parents to one of those, or just go on your own. They'll both be fantastic. We may get another major budget movie with Pierce Brosnan singing. I did not think that was possible, but we will have two of them. Whether or not we should is another question. Maybe that will be the most horrific scene this weekend that you see, is Pierce Brosnan belting. It would be the most beautiful. Ooh, I'm trying to make a joke there, but I can't. Pierce Brosnan has the voice of an angel, and everybody knows it. Horror-wise, we've got Unfriended Dark Web is the big one in theaters. It's a standalone sequel to the 2014 film Unfriended. I quite liked the original Unfriended. I watched it at late night on HBO. I kind of just popped it on. It's more of an experience, or more of an experiment than an actual movie, I think. But I remember liking the experiment enough that I dug it overall. It's shot in this kind of like verite found footage locked into a computer screen style. It's not the first movie that has done that. Basically, you're watching the movie from the vantage point of the computer screen looking back at the characters. But there was a movie called The Den that did the same thing a year earlier. I kind of thought I would get tired of it, but I never really did. I always found they found enough ways to make it visually engaging. So, and it was short, if I recall, too. It was like 70 or 80 minutes. So I also thought the title was funny. But this one is a standalone sequel. It was initially announced. This one was shot in secret in mid-2017, and then it debuted a couple months ago at the Overlook Festival. This is directed by Steven Susko, writer of The Grudge, The American Grudge, and The Grudge 2, also Red, Texas Chainsaw 3D. The box office projections for this one, I found it from, it's looking around 4 to 6 million is what I've seen from places like Box Office Report, Box Office Mojo. So we could be in 4 to 6 million range. I don't think the budget was very big on this at all. And the advertising budget hasn't been big on it either, because I've barely seen it. I'll check it out. Maybe not in theaters this weekend. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably going to see Mamma Mia this weekend. Host of Horror Movie Yearbook will be in the theater watching ABBA songs. But no, I'm definitely going to check it out. The first Purge is in its third week. That'll be out again this weekend. Oh, let's take a look at some of the tomato meter was at. Let's give a quick check real quick what the tomato meter of Unfriended is. And then we're going to take a look at some of the best play on words. Is it play or plays on words? Whatever. The tomato meter is at 61%. So it's fresh. Not bad. Not bad, but I pulled some of the most impressive play on words from the tomato meters. We've got unplug this franchise before the virus spreads. Unfriended Dark Web doesn't deserve your faves or retweets. Instead, it's a regrettably stupid horror sequel that was better left in the drafts folder. I. Unfriended Dark Web takes all the most engaging and horrifying techno horror qualities from Unfriended and wipes the cache clean, disappointingly clean. And then my favorite one was the internet is a terrifying place, except for the dreadful Unfriended Dark Web. Blocked. There's your winner. There's your winner for best Rotten Tomato blurb right there. Blocked. All right. That's when I'm going to start using that in everyday conversation, too. When I'm tired of hearing anybody, I'm just going to go blocked and then walk away. God, I will never do that. All right, everybody. Hey, have a good weekend. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. I'll see if I can keep this going next week. What was that? It was 5 days in a row. I ain't doing it on the weekends. 5 days in a row, so we'll see if we can jump back on. I might jump back on Monday and do a weekend wrap-up of Comic-Con. There's some cool stuff there. I'll just be honest with you. I probably got to talk mostly about Annabelle 3. So once again, thank you for listening. Have a good one, and I'll see you next week.